Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is Dianna in the kitchen, and on today's episode I'll be making one of my favorite Jamaican treats. Alright, and this is sweet potato pudding. This has been a part of my family's tradition since I was a baby, since maybe my mother was a baby, and even my grandmother was a baby. Alright, so this is something that I grew up on. Alright guys, so for the list of ingredients, we have some sweet potato over here, and I'm using 3 pounds. And we also have a 1/4 cup of refined cornmeal, some flour, some dark brown sugar, some freshly juiced coconut milk. We have some raisins, which is completely optional. We also have some freshly grated coconut. And in this, I have a mixture of spices. And we have nutmeg, cinnamon, and we also have some salt. And in this, we have some vanilla, some almond extract, some red label wine, melted butter, and of course, we also have an extra tablespoon of flour, and we'll discuss that later. And over here, we have 1 Dasheen, which is a very small, I think it's about maybe a 1/4 pound of Dasheen. That's grated as well. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is to preheat our oven to 250 to 300 degrees. All right. And we're also going to prepare the pan prior. So we have a 10-inch pan right here that is lined and greased with butter. And we're going to start working on our dry ingredients. So for this, we're just going to combine the flour and the cornmeal with everything, and we're just going to whisk until everything is incorporated. All right, so now that that's completely mixed, we're going to just set this aside. All right, so next we'll begin working on our wet ingredients. So we have in here about 3.5 cups of fresh coconut milk, and to this we're going to add our wine, our almond extract, vanilla, and also our sugar. And we're also going to add the rum, but I don't normally measure this. I normally just pour about 3 or 4 shots of rum. You can use less or more according to your preference. We're going to just mix and continue mixing until everything is combined. Alright, so what you can also do is just to add about a teaspoon of nutmeg to this. We already have it in the dry ingredients, but you can also add some to this just to give it some additional flavor. Alright, so we've been mixing for about 2 minutes at this point, and I'm no longer feeling any sugar granules, so I can just stop mixing and start working on the additional ingredients. Alright, so to do this, I am going as plain as possible and grabbing the biggest Dutch pot in my house, and to this we're just going to add the potato. So this is completely different from some potatoes that you may get overseas. This is the one that is very tough, or you could just say it is very dry. All right, and to this we're going to add the flour and incorporate until it has almost like a sand-like texture, and then we continue adding the rest of the ingredients. All right, so we're just adding our flour to this, and just mixing until, as I said before, you get like a sand-like consistency. And we're just doing this to ensure that there is no white spots in the batter when we're finished, or in the finished pudding. So I continue mixing until you see the flour and the cornmeal disappear. Alright, then to this we're going to add some of our liquid. And continue mixing. Alright, so just continue mixing like this, and then after that we're going to add the Dasheen. And we're going to do the same thing as we did with the flour. We're just going to mix this until it's incorporated into everything. You can choose to use yellow yam, but I honestly don't like handling it to grater. So I prefer to use Dasheen because there's a less likely chance of me being itchy when I'm finished handling it. Alright, so at this point we're going to add the grated coconut. And some more liquid. And we're just going to continue mixing. And now we're going to add our melted butter. And then the majority of our liquid, we're just going to reserve about a 1/4 cup or maybe a 1/2 cup for later. And just continue mixing. Alright, so this is a consistency that we're looking for. And at this point now, we're just going to put the raisins. Remember that 1 tablespoon of flour that we reserved. We're just going to mix this with the raisins. You can use soaked raisins if you have that at hand, but if you don't, you cannot just mix the raisins with some flour, just to prevent them from sticking or sinking to the bottom. And we're just going to gently incorporate this into the mix. And then the next step is pouring it into the pan or the baking tin. And just get your spatula to ensure that you waste none of this batter. So all we're going to do is just to smooth out the top, pop it into the oven for 1.5 hours, and then we're going to take it out and put the custard on the top, and then put it back in for an additional half an hour, and then we're done. All right, so this is going straight into the oven right now. All right, so there's a little trick that I use, because for potato pudding, one of the best parts of potato pudding for me is the crust. Now, what I'm going to do to get that wood fire type crust is to place a Dutch pot cover on top. All right. Okay, so this is what it will look like in the oven, and as you can see, my oven is really hot right now. So we'll see this in another hour and a half of the coconut milk mixture that went into the pudding itself. And what I'm going to do right now is to add 2 more tablespoons of sugar, as well as another teaspoon of grated nutmeg to this, and about a teaspoon of ginger extract. And we're just going to mix this. You can also add another 2 tablespoons of wine at this point as well, but I'll be holding back on that today. So we're just going to mix this until the sugar granule dissolve. And what we really want is a thick consistency, so somewhat a more thicker consistency than what we have originally, and that's the reason I added the additional sugar. So we're just going to mix this until all the sugar granules have been dissolved, and once that's dissolved, we're just going to put this aside until the 1.5 hour has elapsed, and then we're going to add this along with some butter at the top. All right, so we're at the 1.5 hour mark right now, and this is what the pudding is looking like. And as you can see, it has begun to pull away from the sides, and that indicates that it's almost ready. So what we're going to do right now is just to spoon over some of the liquid on the top. You can try as best as possible to avoid it getting over the sides. Just to be a little bit quicker, just do it like this and spoon it over the top. Alright, so then we have some butter that's in some cubes, and we're just going to just place those randomly all over the top. Alright, so just ensure that every section has a little piece. Alright, so what we're going to do right now is just to pop this back in the oven, uncovered this time, for additional half an hour. And when we begin to see it pulling away from the sides a little bit more and the center is completely set, that's when you know it is finished. So in we go for another half an hour. Alright, so our pudding is finished. Alright, and as you can see, it pulled away nicely from the sides. And that crust, guys, trust me, that will be my favorite part of the pudding. Alright, so as much as it's tempting right now, we're going to allow this to cool completely before removing it from the pan and before slicing, because as you can see in some sections, like over here, right over here, it is still bubbling. All right, so we're going to allow this to cool down, and once it's cool, we're going to remove it from the pan and slice and let you guys see the inside, what the texture looks like. So I'll see you in a couple hours. So it's 11:17 p.m. but we are going to cut into our pudding. It is not 100% cool, but I'm just anticipating to show you guys what the inside looks like. All right, and remember the crust that we were talking about? Yes, you can achieve a wood fire style crust in the oven. All right, so we're going to cut this open right now. Ooh. Yes, guys, this is it. Beautiful caramelized crust, soft on the top but not too soft. Have a few raisins peeking through but not too much, and of course one slice of pure heaven. All right, this is it for today's video and the end of another episode. Please tell me in the comments what you guys would love to eat this with, and until the next video, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and of course click on the post notification bell so you'll get notified every time I post a new video. Alright, so I may be having this with a little minty right now. I'll see you guys in the next video.